When was the last time you took a leap of faith, trusting that everything is going to work out? Do you crave growth, or are you merely content with the status quo? If you want more out of your life, out of your career, and out of your relationships, you are in the right place. Take the leap and discover how to create a life by design rather than living it by default. Real success starts with you. Now here's your host, Colleen Biggs.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Take the Leap. I am your host, Colleen Biggs, and this week we are on episode 178. I'm excited for the conversation today because, week after week, we're bringing in a different expert, and that expert has an amazing story of how they took the leap. That's why we've revamped the podcast to Take the Leap. Before it used to be Speak Up to Lead Up, and it was about using your voice and speaking up. But now that we've been doing that for a long time, it's really important to me that each one of us are focusing on where in our lives do we need to push a little harder, take a leap of faith is what I like to say. I've done it, and it's scary. It's scary as hell. But I think if we listen to more and more and more individuals that have taken that leap, it helps us feel a little bit more comfortable knowing we're not alone. We're not the only ones. And every single one of these individuals that have taken the leap have gotten back up. If they've fallen, they've stood on 2 feet, they've landed on 2 feet, and they've moved forward in a positive direction that usually, because of taking that leap, has resulted in a better outcome, either in their personal life, a relationship, their health, or in their business. And Melinda Vanfleet is here today, and it's no different for her. She has an amazing story, so you have to stick around. I mean, this is like it's one of those movies where it's like a finger gripper, and you're like gripping the side of the the chair in the movie, like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen next? And I love it because we're going to be talking about how your intuitive energy, you've heard me talk about your tuition, how your intuitive energy can result in success, not only relationships, business, all of those. But today it's like, stop listening to everybody else except for this podcast and start listening to your gut and what your gut tells you. And I'm telling you, every client that I work with, the biggest question I ask them along the way for almost every big step we take is, how does that feel? What do you feel right now? Tell me what's happening, what's coming up for you. It is so important to monitor how we feel. And I think so many experts out there sometimes just say, do it this way. This is going to work. And I could tell you exactly how to do my sales strategy. But I will tell you that it may not work for you if you don't believe in it like I do, right? If I believe in what I'm selling, it's going to work better for me. And I'm going to use my intuition on what I think is the right thing to say, how to say it, and when to say it. And if you're reading from a script, it's not going to work that way. Intuition is going to help you in every area of your life. And Melinda's here to teach us all about that today. But before we get to Melinda, I do need to start off by thanking our sponsor of today's show, Peaceful Living. And why do we allow stress to compound in our lives, affecting our sleep and our daily rituals? The truth is, we all live with stress, but imagine what would it feel like not to suffer from stress. Are you ready to feel better, sleep better, and change your overall relationship with tension? Peaceful Living can help you bring more peaceful moments into your day. Peaceful Living offers simple tools, live stream and on-demand classes, and a customized self-care success plan. Imagine if you had a simple ways to slow down and restore your energy without taking big chunks of time away from your schedule. We know it's possible, and we're here to help. And the founder, Roberta Hughes, will be your guide each step of the way. So you can visit Peaceful Living at the link below and begin your journey with a free membership. Use code LEAP to receive your first month for free. And I will tell you that she actually has opened up a new studio in Parker, Colorado, that she's serving the local community as well. I use her online community because she is one of the best Pilates, yoga, and meditation teachers I've ever met in my life. There's something about the energy she brings to what she does. Even my husband, who does not like yin yoga, I will tell you, loves her classes. So you got to try it out. I'm definitely an advocate for her today. Okay, Melinda, let's get to the beautiful Melinda Vanfleet, who is an intuitive, energetic business and leadership mentor, coach, and consultant who helps her clients with what they can't see so they can experience results fast. Melinda and her husband, Captain Ryan, moved to the Florida Keys in 2009 after they were both laid off at the same time. Melinda on her 3.5 life and turning 53 on April 7th. We share the exact same birthday. That is correct. And we are the exact same age. She has an unparalleled story of dreaming big, manifestation, and a lot of hard work. Melinda, I'm not even going to read anymore because at this point, I really want you to just be able to tell us more about your story. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Colleen. Yeah, so my husband and I met in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I was almost 35, and it was my goal to be married by the time I was 35 and drew out what I wanted in a husband. So as a self-proclaimed workaholic, I have to say all of those things came true, that I manifested my husband. And when I met him and we got married a week before I turned 35, I realized he was miserable. He was miserable in his job. He suffered from extreme anxiety and depression. And this was before YouTube. This was before the internet. This was before people really talked about manifestation or anything like that. I had no idea about any of those things. But intuitively, I was like, gosh, how can I help him? So we would lay on the top of the bed together and play the sound machine, and I would just create visualizations. I, again, didn't know anything about this, didn't know what I was doing. I just knew he loved to fish more than anything else. And I just would help him visualize fishing, moving somewhere where it never ever snowed, because we did not like Minneapolis very much. And that we would have two little dogs.
Does anyone like Minneapolis?
It is a beautiful place in the summer.
I know, it is. But I love what you're saying, because just intuitively you were like, hey, if I could help him visualize his happy place, which is what you were doing, that would calm his system.
And it did. It calmed his system. It didn't solve everything. I don't want people to be misled. Yeah. But it did calm his system. And then what ended up happening was about 2 years into all of this, 2009, we ended up getting laid off at the same time. And I was already on a path to try to find a new job and go the traditional way that everyone does, right? Submitting resumes, going through interview process, trying to move in the corporate world and have a company move me. And it just never happened. It just never happened. So we literally sold pretty much everything we owned. Took a car down here. We were lucky we had a place to stay in Fort Myers for 3 weeks. And then we ended up landing in the Florida Keys. And long story short, we ended up opening our sport fishing business, Good Karma Sport Fishing, in January of 2012. So about 3 years later. And here we are today. And it's, I always say not every day is sunshine and rainbows. So I don't like people to be misled. There's been a lot of tears, a lot of dark nights of the soul, but I have absolutely no regrets. And I'm just so, I don't always like to use the word proud because I think it can be a little like patronizing, but I am extremely proud of my husband and what he does out there on the water and for his clients and how we've evolved our business from there.
So what did he do back in Minneapolis, your husband? It's so crazy that I think it was exactly 1 year later from what you're talking about was when I met my husband. For us to be the same age, for us to have the exact same birthday, and then to meet our soulmates exactly almost the same time. I was like barely 36 and I met my husband.
Wow.
Is that crazy or what? Like,
it is crazy.
So much in common. It is nuts. So tell me about Captain Ryan. What was his position or what did he do in Minneapolis before you moved him to the Keys?
Yeah, so his whole background and what he went to college for was biology and science. And so he was in food and plant. He worked with plants like production plants, processing plants. So he was a production control supervisor. And yeah, he hated it.
It just goes to show, oh my gosh, working as a production supervisor to moving to the Keys. And, I always told my husband that whenever I'm on vacation somewhere, and I'm like, do you see that hut right there? I can run that hut. I can, sell surfboards or, learn how to surf and then do surf lessons and be in the water all day. So, this is to me the most beautiful part is not only were you thinking about yourself, you were thinking about as a couple and your husband, like, where would we be the happiest? Where would it be the easiest and most beautiful place for us to grow our lives together, to grow our careers together? And what would that look like? So he now and you now own Good Karma Sport Fishing and Coaching. So help me understand what happened when you got down to the Keys. Like, so many people talk about this, and I want to move to this beautiful place and I can just start up something here and be happy. I would be happy as a barista, if you want me to be honest. Like, because I just love the smell of coffee, and to be around it all day and to serve it to people, it would be so no stress to me. Because really, is there a lot of stress in being a barista? There shouldn't be. And if you're stressed, that's on you.
It's, yeah, I was gonna say or it's on the other person who, for whatever reason, is having a bad day and decide to take it out on you. So
Right.
yeah, absolutely. So I am definitely a very grounded person who doesn't like to blow smoke up of people's butts, right?
Yeah.
So it was not easy. It was a lot of tears. I knew I wanted to be in sales. And so I had to figure that out. I couldn't find a job being a sales rep for like like a liquor company. I tried everything. And I just really am gifted and really work with my clients on following the breadcrumbs. Like, one thing is going to lead to another, and results just don't happen like yesterday, right? It takes time. So it took me several years to build a multi-million-dollar sales business, but I did that. And we used that money to then fund Good Karma Sport Fishing. So it was quite a journey that, in hindsight, I look back and go, okay, yeah, it was only like 2.5, 3 years, but honestly, it was very painful during that process. So I love sharing my story because I don't feel that, number one, a lot of people have similar stories to me in terms of both of us getting laid off at the same time and moving somewhere else and starting completely from scratch. But the other reason too is I want people to realize and be grounded to the fact that there's going to be tears along the way. There's going to be tweaks and pivots along the way. It's going to take time. So don't give up. Like, that's my message. Like, don't give up, because unfortunately, the narratives that are shared out there from the majority of, coaches and experts that are trying to sell you something is that, this is all going to happen, tomorrow. And it's just really highly unlikely, but you can do it too. So you just have to get really grounded to the fact that there's going to be a journey. And they always say that, life happens in the journey, not necessarily in the destination. And I do believe that, even though I'm an impatient Aries, like you're an Aries.
Like me. I wasn't in line.
Why hasn't it happened yet?
I tell everybody, when God was giving out patience, I was in the other line, collecting bravery or courage or determination. I just skipped the entire patience line. Like, I'm sure we're not in line getting all of these, but in my visual, that's what it looks like. I'm glad that you shared that, because I want to share a real story that goes along with exactly what you said that I don't think I've ever shared before on this podcast, which really reinforces what you just said. My husband was laid off. He was over master plan communities. That's what he did. And he was responsible for all the construction and landscaping and everything that happened in these master plan communities. Well, the company he worked for just happened to have new bosses that took over. I will honestly say they were not good, honest people. So they had asked my husband to lie to this master plan community to say they needed all of these trees replaced so they could get a big influx of cash. My husband's like, they don't need these trees replaced. And he's like, well, no, you need to tell them there's an infection or whatever and on the tree, right? And that they have to do all this. And he came home and I just remember him saying, this doesn't feel right. And I said, I would never do anything dishonest like that. And trust me, I'm not asking you to do it. I'm telling you, you need to tell him to go fly a kite. Well, he did. And they fired him. And he was already doing his drone business back then. Like we're talking, there weren't drones back then, Melinda. This is almost 10 years ago. People think they've been around forever, but they haven't, right? Just like the computer hasn't been around forever. And so he was putting GoPros, the very first GoPro that ever came out, taping it to a model airplane and flying it. That's how he was getting photography. Yeah. He couldn't see it, didn't know what pictures it was taking photos of, but master plan communities loved it because they got a bird's eye view without hiring a helicopter. Back then you had to hire a helicopter for thousands of dollars, and my husband for hundreds of dollars could fly this plane, right? And capture the same type of photos. I'm serious.
That's awesome.
So they fired him and he said, it just doesn't feel right for me to go back into this industry. It doesn't feel right. I'm tired of this industry. I'm not getting anywhere in this industry. It's been my whole life. And it was his whole life because his dad owned a nursery when he was born. So he worked and grew up in this nursery and kind of landed in this type of industry forever, right? And he said, I love flying drones and people are paying me to do this now. And all I said to him was, then that's what you need to do. You need to build that business and I will do what I need to support you in building that business. And we will make it work no matter what we have to cut back, no matter what we have to do. We're still raising kids at this time, right? It was the intuition of him saying, it doesn't feel right for me to go back. Now, everything rationally lined up would say, you go back and you get another job. But I said, you know what? Why don't you just build your business? And then he said, well, I can make extra money because back then Uber had come along. It wasn't, it's really a big thing back then. It just kind of come along. And he's like, if I can use your car, I think I had a BMW back then. So it was like a higher end car, a premium car or something for Uber. And he drove Uber because he didn't have a lot of jobs, remember, to do. So he had more time than money. This is what I tell every entrepreneur. You have more time than money when you start. So what do you do with that time? You go make money. I don't care how you make the money, you make the money. So if you're not generating it in your business yet, you have plenty of time to be generating it somewhere else. And today the opportunities are endless, Melinda. So he generated income driving Uber and would spend certain amount of hours and he'd say, I'm not leaving until I get exactly this amount of money. And then he would just spend time working on his website, all the things that he needed to do, that he needed to put the work into because he didn't have the money to pay for other people to do it for him. And he slowly built his business. It'll be 10 years next year. And we just franchised it.
Oh my God,
it's such a good business model. So a business that started out flying a foam airplane is going to turn into a $10-15 million business within the next 10 years. And I'm sharing that with everyone because you said it in the beginning. It doesn't happen overnight. This business was at 8 years old before we ever decided to make a scaling decision to scale it using franchising as a model, right? And dump a lot of money into that model. And it takes time. And so many clients I work with too, they want it results overnight. And I think that's a societal and cultural issue that we have right now because you order something and Amazon will have it on your doorstep in 5 minutes, and you're like, I want everything right away. Why can't I have that for a week? That's ridiculous, But back in the day, we were used to waiting for things. It wasn't a big deal. You waited for a TV show to come on every Thursday at 7:00 at night. There was no streaming. But we've become so accustomed to it being instantaneous that so many individuals just want immediate fame or immediate, I want to make 6 figures. I want to make $1 million. Why can't I make this money overnight? And you're right. Too many people are out there selling like, if you do this and you do that, you too can have this happen for you. And it's like, what do you tell those clients that come to you that are new and they want to work with you because they do want to listen to their intuition. They do want to use energy, because I've learned more about that, and it's easy. I mean, we have 4 businesses and I work way less than 40 hours a week. And when I worked for one company, I worked 60 hours a week and still couldn't do what I needed to do. And I was an employee in the entire business. I own the businesses now, and I don't have to work that many hours. That's energy in a business. It's
well, that's bandwidth. Yes.
Talk about that.
The bandwidth piece of it.
Yeah.
So there's time management, which is a skill that still a lot of people need help with, want help with, whatever. And I just did a post about energetic bandwidth. To me, that's different than like being an energy healer, which I can do that too, but they're just kind of different categories, I would say, or understanding the energy of people and different things like that. So I could go down a rabbit hole there, but energetic bandwidth. So for example, we started the coaching part of our sport fishing in 2020. So we created 12 online courses and a online, we called it the rigging crew. So my husband would get on Zoom once a month. We had a community of guys, of anglers, and he would get on these calls, and that went really well. And that was a $50 a month price point. And then that January, we created a separate one called the Fishing Club that was 2 times a month, and then with a higher price point with a little bit more instructional. So in terms of proximity, it was a different type of online Zoom. But what would happen is because we actually still run fishing charters. So a lot of online coaches also don't have like an actual business that is a lot of physical work, let alone like weather and all these other factors that we have to continually like monitor. So a very different type of business. So anyhow, so we get up at 2:00 in the morning when we have charters, which is a lot. My husband's very busy. And when he would get off these calls at like 8:30, and our normal bedtime is 7. So, but he would get off and he would be so pumped up from having these calls and all these guys on the Zoom, and everyone's talking about fishing and wanting to hear all these things. And he couldn't wind down. So he was literally like pumped up, like his energy. And then when he would finally be able to wind down and go to sleep, we then had to get up at 2:00 in the morning to start the day and get prepped for these fishing charters. And I'm part of that. Like I get up with him. I help him with all the things. I do all the things on the back office. I manage like getting him breakfast, like all the things I take care of so he can just operate on the fishing, and I take care of everything else. So we started to realize like his bandwidth, and mine too, but primarily his, because he's then the one who has to go on the water and with the clients, was a huge challenge. And no one was talking about stuff like this. No one was talking about like the bandwidth and how to make it relatable for other people out there. Is like if you're a coach and you have like all these one-on-one clients like stacked up throughout your day, you're going to be exhausted at the end of the day, which is why a lot of coaches don't want to do one-on-one coaching anymore, is because they're like back to back with these coaching clients, and then they're truly like wiped out. So if you feel like wiped out, that's your energetic bandwidth that just needs a reset. So sometimes you have to go to bed. Sometimes you have to take a nap. Sometimes you have to just like do something else.
Yeah, you got to take a walk, eat some food. You got to get away and
get your energy back.
Start your day by pouring into yourself. So you're a full battery. That I like to think of us like a cell phone battery, right? So you start your day with a full cell phone battery because you've probably plugged in your phone all night long. Most everybody does. So you start with a full battery, but you wake up, and if you didn't sleep good, you're already on a half battery. And then if you get to work right away, you're just depleting. So what are you doing to fill your battery every morning? And I work out. So I have physical, I do meditation. So there's mental, I read. So I pour knowledge into my brain. A lot of times I read something so great, I highlight it, and then I'll take a photo and send it to a specific client that I think needs to hear that or see that, or they can always go back and reference it. And that's just a way that I, find like I should share this. This was so good, but I don't want to keep it for myself. So when we're talking about being an intuitive, energetic when we're talking about having intuitive business, they're really just trusting themselves and really monitoring kind of that medium baseline of, just because this person says it's great and I should do it, and someone's kind of leaning on me to do it, or go to this thing, or speak somewhere, or do something, or attend a conference, does it energetically feel right for me? Is that what you're saying? We ask ourselves, like, does this feel right to me?
Yes. So from an intuition standpoint, yes. So
Yeah.
I would say that. And it's so amazing to me because for such a simple concept, truly, that we all have, the majority of people are not doing it.
Yeah.
So when AI is just making it worse, like if you're relying on AI for things, you're clogging your intuition, you're just adding another level there. You're just any type of distraction that you are doing throughout the day. So whether it's listening to, a podcast on politics, like that is truly a distraction. So all of these things are clouding your intuition. So I really help people understand that and look at their day and restructure their day, and then also learn how to see it, follow their breadcrumbs. And as a mentor, I help people trust in that. So a lot of people talk, but at the end, like I can feel their energy that they aren't really like walking the walk. So that's where I say that, what I am, right? An intuitive and energetic empowerment mentor is that I see things that normally the person is still missing, even though they may think they've got it all, like they're still missing it. So I was interviewing someone for the paper because I'm also a freelance writer on the side. I just love doing it. I've been doing it for a long time. And the business owner was like, I'm fearless. I'm fearless. And then in like the same sentence, she was saying how she had some hesitation about something. And I'm like, well, you're not really fearless, are you? Right? So it's things like that, right?
A lot of alignment that maybe people are missing out on. They say they do things, but they're not. And so they're not getting the results that they really need to be getting, but they've convinced themselves that they're doing it. So they literally cannot find the disconnect.
They can't find the disconnect.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, too, in this world, like a lot of people are sitting in that. Like they're sitting in it. They don't want to get over themselves. They could really use the help. And it's just fascinating to me because I've always been that person that's like, me, help me. And that's why I've come so far so fast. And, and I just see other people that are just still sitting in it. And everyone's on their own timeline. You can bring a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. But it's just, my podcast now is called The Wake Up Call. And I talk about concepts like this in terms of really just trying to be like, hello, are you there? Like, this is what's going on out there in the world.
What are some symptoms?
How these things are keeping you stuck. So
tell us about symptoms. So we talk a lot, we hear it out there. Oh, you're stuck. If you're not getting the results that you desire and you don't know why, that would be a symptom of someone that maybe isn't seeing the disconnect. They literally don't know it exists. So it's not like they see it and then they're like, oh, I need to fix this, so I need to go hire Melinda. That's not what's happening. Why are clients hiring you? What's going on? What are the symptoms that are happening in their lives that they say, I need you? And then you help them connect the dots on what's really happening.
Yeah, so I'll just go back to the story that I didn't finish sharing about our own business, because a lot of business coaches also don't have businesses. So I do like to keep client stories more confidential and just pull from my own knowledge. So I do feel that's a big issue out there. So anyhow, when we realized that, I called out, I'm like, this is a bandwidth issue for your energy, right? So a symptom in terms of like another person would be the exhaustion, right? They can't get out of bed. They don't feel good. They're overeating. It's affecting their weight. Quite frankly, I can have a Zoom call with someone and look at their picture, watch their video, look at, anything and know that they're completely out of alignment. So those would be symptoms.
Okay.
And so my husband was just exhausted. He was exhausted. He was having a hard time getting up in the morning. So we noticed this pattern and we had conversations about bandwidth. And then finally in October of 2023, he was like, I think you're right. Right. So there's bringing a horse to water, but I can't make them drink. So, but eventually he's like, I think you're right. We have to do something. So we actually just pulled the plug on that whole group and it broke his heart. It was a month-to-month payments for the guys. And so that was, a challenging conversation, but they also know that he's a sport fishing captain and it's not like he's just sitting around watching Netflix. And so what ended up happening then after we moved through that. So some time passed, right? So that was October. And then in January of this year, an idea came to me because I live in this way. And the idea was to start this different type of business model that we layered in easily that has a different way of him to have proximity to the guys. And so we started these 8-week course intensives that are very unique. And it wasn't like I was copying another coach. So truly this came to us for an idea for us. And then also we launched just recently Rigging Crew 2.0, which was a collaborative conversation because he still really missed that. So we were like, okay, how can we, bring that back? And he was like, well, let's make that one of these 8-week courses. And I was like, I just don't feel that that would really be the best way to serve your clients, like the anglers in the group. And so it evolved through conversation and collaboration into what is now Rigging Crew 2.0, which is a group on Facebook. And he's going live every other Thursday night. And it's just in the Facebook group. So it's not on Zoom. And it's a half an hour. It's one question. And everyone that can make it live can pipe in and ask questions in relation to the one topic, let's say. And it's working out really, really well. So the group is growing. So yeah, so again, as I mentioned earlier, it's really about following breadcrumbs and knowing one little thing may lead to another little thing, may lead to another little thing over time.
Yeah.
And that it's, a journey and not a destination. And we have to really work on spreading this message, this narrative, and really understanding that, the other coaches out there that are selling you these quick results, that's what's keeping people stuck, right? So that ends up being part of the system is that you're following these other people and there's nothing wrong with them, but you at least be smart about it, at least understand. And something I talk about on my podcast a lot is I do research on coaches. So, I really kind of not in a place anymore of joining lots of groups. I believe that that's part of the journey too. But when I studied their journey. So if they were selling me something, I knew that they started their business in 2016, right? And they worked their butts off to get to the level of the audience they have. So then they did that. I just did a post today on foundation, right? It's about building a foundation, about building a solid foundation. And you have to do that. You can't skip it. It doesn't skip. You've been a business coach for a long time. It doesn't
20
skip.
years. Yeah.
You have to build and build.
Never an overnight sensation. No, it's just when that might be when that person finally finds you and then they're like, whoa, look at this person. But that was years of building. And I just remind everybody that it's years of building. So you've shared so much valuable information. And the number one thing I took from all of that is we've got to trust ourselves. And if we aren't seeing the results we want based on how we're doing things today, then we do need to get mentors. And it's important to get a mentor that's going to help you trust yourself, that's going to help you listen to yourself, to pay attention to the things, have a different perspective, and not just have a one way of doing things. And maybe you're a square peg and they want to fit you into a round hole. I say that all the time, like run if that ever happens and you find somebody that treats you that way. It's just you and I are very similar. And I think it has something to do with being born on the same day, same year. But you and I are very similar in how we approach working with clients. And I think that's why we're so successful in doing what we do, because the people that do work with us feel that we're so genuinely involved and concerned about their well-being, their success, their joy, their happiness, all of that, because it's not about me and my method. It's about you and your business and your success. And I think that's the most important thing. I know we have a lot of places that we can find you listed below, but I would love for you to let our listeners know, where's the best place for them to find you? Where would you want them to go if they went to one place to reach out to you?
Yeah. So my website's super easy. It's just my name, melindavanfleet.com. Everything's there. I hang out mostly on LinkedIn and Instagram. So, so that it's my name.
Awesome. Oh, great. Okay, good. And we have all that there for you. And I can't thank you enough, Melinda, for being with us today. I wish we had so much more time to be able to have a deeper conversation. So we'll have to have you back on that. And, you know, I think it's so important for us to pay attention. And I find it easier as I get older, because I think it feels like when we're younger, we almost feel like we have to do things other people are doing because we don't want to stand out. But now I just don't give a crap. I'm like, I'm going to do things the way I want to do it. People ask me that all the time. Why did you do a conference that way? And when you talked about, like, we did things that felt right and we're doing things that doesn't feel right. So ask yourself those questions. Does it feel right? Does it not feel right? And maybe if you're not asking yourself those questions, you've shut off that side of you that needs to be kind of woken back up and poured into, because that is the missing piece for sure on where you're having a disconnect in your business. And Melinda's a great resource, mentor, as she said, coach and consultant. And she helps them for what they can't see to experience results fast. Did you hear what I said? Experience results fast. So make sure you're reaching out to Melinda. And just remember, everyone, you're the only you that's ever been. You're the only you that's ever going to be. Stop wasting another day doing things that don't feel right. I have worked with people and had red flags galore and ignored it. And in the end, it was always a disaster. And so I told my husband, from now on, we're going to do things based on how I feel when I'm talking with someone, because I feel people's energy. And I said, if I say a franchisee is not fit for this business, I just need you to trust me. I might not have the words exactly to say why I don't think they're a fit, but if I say they're not a fit, they're not a fit. And I think we need to trust ourselves, right?
Yeah,
along the way, for sure.
I love that. That's amazing.
All right, Melinda. Thank you so much for being with us today. And to all of you out there, thank you so much for being loyal listeners. Thank you to our sponsor, Peaceful Living, for sponsoring today's show. And until next time, never forget to be you and be strong. Bye-bye for now.
We hope you enjoyed our show today, as our guests shared their secrets on designing their life by taking the necessary leaps to expand their influence and attract the right people and clients into their lives. To start these easy steps for yourself, be sure to visit www.colleenbiggs.net/freebies to download the 7 ways to increase your exposure today.